Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be looking at the Sennheiser IE800, Sennheiser's in-ear version of their classic over-ear flagship, the HD800. Much like the HD800, it's a dynamic configuration, single driver, and open. More about that later. First off, I'd like to apologize. I sadly don't have any of the accessories for them, but I can tell you they do come with a very nice leather case and a decent selection of tips. No different types, simply size variations. Physically, the in-ear themselves are made from a very nice looking ceramic. I suppose it's lacquered on top or something. It has a very nice finish, almost feels sort of like metal because of its hardness and glossiness. The vents on the back, which is why I call it open, are made of metal. I suppose it's probably milled aluminium or something like that. The cable itself, I believe, is a Kevlar weave, but I'm not entirely sure if I remember correctly on that. The cable is permanently attached to the monitors themselves, which I find very annoying. But I can't complain about the quality of it. It does split on the middle for some reason. I don't know why Sennheiser decided to do this. I believe the official statement was that they never break at the actual headphones. They always break at the connector at the bottom, and so they felt like replacing the lower half of the cable was more sensible. I think it's utter rubbish, and quite frankly, I think the only reason they did this was basically so they had, well, the only sort of ability to be able to sell additional cables for them, or new cables for them, because I don't see any practical reason not to have a small connector at the earpiece itself other than that. The plug itself I don't think will break anytime soon, but the strain relief isn't that good, to be honest. It's far too stiff to actually do anything. As you see, if I pull on the cable, it'll barely budge. So as far as that goes, I suppose the assessment of the cable being most likely to break there is probably quite likely, to be honest. Not that I think it'll break with any reasonable wear, because the cable is of such a high quality, but if it is going to break anywhere, I suppose that's probably where it will do so. Other than that, my biggest issue with the cable itself is that it's very short. If you wear them cable down, not over the ear, just cable down from your pocket to your ears, using your phone, it's not necessarily that big of a problem. It fits pretty perfectly for that, which is probably what they intended for you to do. However, if you want to wear them over the ear, which I do for most of the time for a more secure fit and generally just a better fit in my opinion, it is too short, and you'll find that the length that goes between the splitter and this, you probably can't. Just a second, I'll zoom out so you can see. It's actually quite short. So you can maybe tell here, this isn't actually that long. In fact, it's so short that if you do wear them like that, you'll more or less strangle yourself. If you are of any sort of sturdier build, you would say. If you're as thin as I am, it will fit, but it does look a bit awkward. It looks like you're wearing a necklace or something. And not the prettiest one, that is basically a stick. Rubber stick, but it is doable, but it is short and it's a bit annoying. And if you happen to be doing that, then the cable overall is also quite short, and at that point, if you have deep pockets or anything, then it starts to yank on the cable and it gets annoying. It does, however, get rid of the cable noise, of which there is a decent amount, especially if you wear a necklace at the same time as wearing them, when you wear them cable down, because the necklace will hit the cable and it makes quite the ruckus, even compared to most other in-ear monitors, but so be it. The general build quality, ignoring the fact that the design choices are a bit rubbish in my opinion, but the build quality is outstanding. It's very good. Going from there, they're very light. The connector itself, it's nothing really to see here. It's usual suspects. It'll go in through most of your phone cases and so on, and they'll be driven just fine out of pretty much any device you could ever think of. That being said, they aren't extremely sensitive like some moving armature in-ears. Those are often very, very sensitive. These aren't that sensitive, and you'll have to turn up the volume a tad to get a good sound. But when you do get a very good sound, and this is probably, well, in most people's opinion, this is the only important thing about an in-ear and headphone in general, and in theory it is. The sound is probably what redeems their silly design choices. They sound very, very good. They are, however, quite different from most Sennheisers in that they sound more like, if you think of the old Denon series, the D7000 and so on, and to some extent the new Fostex, it sounds more like those than, say, an IE800, HG800, to be honest. What I mean is that the sound is sort of a U shape. They have a lot of bass, very, very present bass, and a quite sparkly treble. It's not that overwhelming, it's not that bad, but it is more above neutral. So a very sort of energetic and an exciting signature rather than flat neutral like you'd usually expect from Sennheiser. But that's about where the sort of dissimilarities stop. From there on, it's business as usual with an HG800. They are extremely detailed, probably the most detailed in-ear monitors I can remember listening to. Well beyond, say, the Shure SE846 or my custom in-ears, the Air Audio A4. They're well beyond any of those, to be honest, and the soundstage is also exceptionally good for an in-ear monitor. It's very large, and I probably think that should be contributed to, apart from Sennheiser made a numerous amount of new patents, as far as I remember, generally just new innovations when making these, and some of them being the ports on the back here, which give an open design to the driver, which ventilates it, and I suppose that's probably why they have such a large soundstage, and probably also why the driver's movement isn't as restricted and thus gives it so much detail. So going through it, the bass is quite powerful, very, very good, very punchy. Probably one of the most punchy in-ear monitors I know, but it is well controlled at the same time, as you'd probably expect considering it's such a small drive. I believe it's a 7mm driver that's in them, so it's quite small even for an in-ear monitor. And in general, as you may be able to tell, I don't know if you obviously don't know specifically the size of my hands, but these pieces themselves are actually very small. They're probably like a bit less than a centimetre in diameter and about a centimetre long, disregarding the nozzle itself. But yeah, in general, sound very, very good. I quite like them. If you're looking for something for studio use, I wouldn't recommend these because of the, like I said, non-neutral sound. But for mostly everything else, it's very good. The mids don't get drowned out, so that's not really an issue. They are present, and they are very good and detailed, and you'll be able to hear voices just fine. It's simply that on bass heavy tracks they will be very bass heavy. But apart from that, it's sort of business as usual with Sennheiser. Final remarks. I just remembered one thing to mention is that the tips have a custom fitting system, if you will. You can maybe tell there. They have sort of a connector in there. There you can see a plastic ring that fits on here, which is why these are so short. This means that you can't actually use whichever sort of tips you want. You have to use the ones they come with, which restricts it a bit. So you can't use like foam tips or anything if you want that. I imagine you probably can't even get custom tips for them if you're into that sort of thing. But I have seen people having these, like the entire thing cast in a custom shell, so that's potentially a possibility if you want that. I do strongly recommend these, especially considering at this point you can get them fairly cheaply on the internet if you look for it. The retail price is fairly high, but you can get them, like I said, quite cheap if you look for them. So if you listen to basically, I say pretty much anything, if you listen to pretty much any sort of music, and you like the sort of exciting sound that things like the Fostex and old Denon series had, which are very punchy and very sparkly, then I strongly recommend these for you. But do try them out for yourself. I think that's a thing you want to do. Final thing to mention, actually, sorry, I thought of this. They don't have inline mic and controls, which you'd expect with this big clunky thing. You can buy it, but it's quite expensive. I think it's like $100 or something ridiculous like that. I hope at this point you can find it cheaper in places, but I didn't bother with it because I heard the price originally and I thought it was ridiculous, so I just dropped it. But yeah, design, silly. Build, very good. Sound, extremely good. So yeah, strongly recommend these. If you have any questions about them or anything else that I may be able to help you with, feel free to ask me in the comment section, and if you like the review and want more, then feel free to thumbs up and subscribe. That's all for now. Have a good one.